Hey, happy Friday, everybody! Time for another update. You know what I'm waiting for. Okay, so we're good. So hey, happy pre-Halloween to you folks in the U.S. or anywhere else where you celebrate it. Certainly, it is, as I've said now a few times here over the years. It's one of my favorite holidays. I really have enjoyed it over the decades. Unfortunately, this weekend, which is a time we usually go to places that are having pre-Halloween things when Halloween doesn't fall on a weekend, it's supposed to rain all weekend here. So, shame, but still October, and it'll still be Halloween this week, and hopefully it will be nice then. So let's get to the top 10. First, bad news, no testing today. No testing this weekend. We've done testing today. This build is just not stable enough. A lot of good stuff has gone in, a lot more going in, and we're in a state where having a real test this weekend isn't a good thing. We might leave a server open, but that's looking kind of iffy. But we'll see. We still got another hour or so. So top 10-ish. First is testing. Like I said, we've got a whole bunch of things going in that have gone in, will be going in over the next few weeks. So I don't think this will be the last time I say either during the week or on a weekend that we might have to hold off a test. And as you'll hear in these top 10, some good reasons why. That was number 1. Number 2, work in progress, the building server. So you've heard us talk about different servers at different times. The building server, of course, not surprisingly, is there to ensure that buildings perform the way we need them to. As you folks know, this is a sort of difficult thing for any team, let alone a team our size. And we made the determination a while ago that spinning up a different server, just like we have a physics server, just as we have the API server, spinning up a building server was important, and that is going really well, and is leading us to the next item. As a matter of fact, also tech, also building related, Rubble. So Andrew has made a lot of progress on Rubble this week. We're hoping that next week, early next week, we're actually going to get it on Hatchery. So that's a huge step for us. Building destruction alone is challenging. You folks can, just have to think about how many games in the world can do that well. Certainly not many leap to mind, especially when you want to network them across thousands of tens of thousands of simultaneous connections. So that is going along very, very well, and hopefully next week you'll be actually able to see rubble falling from buildings, bouncing off you, bouncing off other things. I've seen it on Andrew's build, and it's looking good. Number 4, another work in progress, UI, the crafting UX, and the whole crafting experience. So you've seen some of the artwork that we have produced so far for the UI. So work is going on with the UI, with the user UX, the user experience, and progress. Number 5, another work in progress, NavMesh. So a lot of words in this little bullet about why it's important and exactly what it is. What it boils down to is we don't want our NPCs to be as dumb as rocks anymore, or in this case, dumber than rocks. So hopefully we're going to get up to kind of smartish rocks with the first pass on this, so that they don't just walk into walls and stay walking into the wall forever. So first pass on that, kind of necessary for guards and other NPCs. Number 6, mage casting animations. So yes, Scott finished a pass on this. Just like the points before, kind of need this for the next step of Beta 1, which is bringing the new classes, using the ability builder, using the new abilities. So to do that, We need animations that actually fit the mage. Number 7, another work in progress, the ability system. So, yep, more progress there. Ben, and I, have been talking to the guys, talking about the ability system, seeing where we have to go, and that is moving along really well. Number 8, another work in progress, Characters 2.0. So right now we just completed the light and heavy Arthurian armors, made progress on the Viking medium armor, and the generic male human Lods. So, again, all about making the game look better and perform better. Number 9, design, work in progress, the Devout class designs. So we did say we were going to be working on more classes. Well, there's another one we're working on. Number 10, VFX. Mike has been working on improving the effects for the game. And so particularly he worked on the distortion particle shader. So again, making the game look more like a game. Number 11, audio. So Dave and DB have been working on audio optimization. Let's say that 3 times fast. And is as well been fixing some bugs. Boy, buds, I am just having a day. So number 12, tech. This is the big one. This is the one that you all been waiting for. The coherent integration and the 64-bit client. Yes, lots of progress. Yes, we're still on track. I know, haven't heard that often. We are hoping absolutely that before the end of next month, both will be done. Not just coherent, the 64-bit client. So we are on track for that. We're looking really good. As you guys and gals who've been in the betas have seen, we have been making progress there, and we are getting really, really close. And again, close on schedule, not close in the, yes, it never gets closer. No, close to staying on schedule with that. Kind of big deals for us. I mean, yanking out Ceph and integrating coherent really was and is the final step to getting the 64-bit client done. And that solves a bunch of problems for us. It certainly gives us the freedom to do things that we haven't talked to you folks about yet, because we have to make sure we can do them that we couldn't do under the 32-bit client, as well as the things we have said that we'll be able to do once we have the 64-bit client, including having more textures, having larger islands, doing the things that we need to do. Lunch. We want to get done before we get much further into beta. So that's it. I want this to be a shorty because I got to get out of here at 6 o'clock. I have a hard stop. So if we can do this for about 20 minutes or so, that'd be great. So ask away. Oh, and by the way, lots of interviews continuing with people. Some of the guys are in right now with another candidate. So things are looking good on that front as well.
Svarty asks, when you say physics server, building server, and so on, do you mean actual physical computers used for these? Will there be separate physics server for every game server? How will this scale? It sounds very expensive.
Oh, it'll scale fine. I mean, this is, stuff that we've been doing, and this is stuff, even when you go back to the Mythic days, that we were doing, for Dayak and for Warhammer, or even similar to what I did on my first MUD, for God's sakes. I am pleased, and I chuckle when I see the architecture because it is so similar, and what we're doing here is so much more complicated than stuff I did 30 years ago. But it's the same basic concept. And so these servers, will they be more expensive? Sure, because we're essentially running off a separate instance. On the other hand, not so expensive that it's going to have any effect on our ability to actually make this a profitable game. But yeah, I mean, performance for us is the key. And, to pull off what we're trying to pull off, which again, nobody has pulled off to date, we have to make sure that performance is great, because there's no point in saying that you can have 1,000 people or 2,000 people, or you can have destructible buildings if you can't scale that. And so that's the kind of stuff we're doing now rather than later. And, certainly We didn't have to do it this way, but eventually we would have had to do it this way. So, as we always do, let's just rip the Band-Aid off now and do things the right way so we won't have to worry about this right before launch.
Odilvik asks, how long will rubble remain in the world? Might rubble have hit points so we have to clear it away?
Possibly. That's something that we haven't discussed yet. The bottom line is rubble, as it stands, is supposed to be something that hits, does damage, and sticks around. How far we go with that, how long it'll last, does it need to be carried out, how do you need to destroy it? The first step is getting it instantiated into the world so it can actually stack and become a thing, and then all the other details can be worked out.
Brando2 asks, does horizontal progression of an ability get lost if you remove the ability from your action bar? Or can you remove it and add it back in later to help be more situational from one fight to another?
Oh, of course, it's persistent. All that stuff has to be persistent. Once you've earned it, you've earned it. Could we have a system where you essentially forget abilities, unlearn abilities? So if you're hitting soft cap and you want to, lose some points, sure. But just taking it off your bar, that would be mean. We're a lot of things. Mean is not among them.
Kaladex asks, what will the specking system be like in CU? Will there be 3 spec paths for each class? And will it be more like the Daog point system, or do you envision something like the WoW skill tree system?
We'll discuss that when we're ready to talk about our mages.
Antediluvian asks, in ability descriptions, we see reference to raising or causing panic. What is the intended mechanic for panic?
Well, the mechanic is to obviously affect your ability to carry out your other abilities. The exact implementation of that is something that we will talk about, mainly because it isn't done yet, and there's no reason for it to be done at this point. But it is the idea that if your character is prone to panic, or if you have abilities that are causing a heightened panic level, you will not be as effective. Whether we could go all the way with this and make it so you go running off into the woods screaming, that's a whole other matter. That's obviously a crowd control kind of item.
Spike Druid asks, with the work you are doing on Devout, does that mean they are confirmed for launch? The original Kickstarter only had hybrid, not support, not Devout. Which one is it, or is it both for launch?
No comment on that. Again, this is Ben just working on some class designs right now.
And Rukin99 asks on the YouTube chat, are there going to be older character models for our mages? Thinking along the lines of a Deckard Cain looking mage.
Older designs. Good question. I haven't actually thought about that because I haven't been focused on that aspect of the mages yet. So thank you for that. We'll talk about that hopefully next week. And I don't mean we as a company, I mean next time we're here, because I honestly don't know the answer to that.
Krenin22, also on the YouTube chat, asks, when will our lifetime subs be able to be added to our secondary account in the Forever Hero tier?
Oh, really good question. It won't be, I don't think, considered a separate item for the account editor, like you can't transfer them, but I'll check with Tim on implementation of that.
Odilvik asks, with player collision, if you leap onto a packed group of enemies from a keep wall, would you be able to run across their heads?
In theory, yeah, of course.
We've got several different people asking, including McKeats and Gibbercast, asking, I've played loads of multi-faction PvP games. What kinds of systems are in place to address faction imbalances to allow the low population faction to remain competitive?
Oh, well, in place, absolutely nothing. That's not something we are worried about implementing right now. On the other hand, if you mean what are we going to do, certainly we're going to try some things that Mythic and other companies have certainly used in the past. We're also going to look at other ways, in some cases more interesting ways to do things. But you can expect us to do a handful minimum of things to try to ensure that even the lowest populated realm of the three still have fun when they're playing the game and are rewarded for it. You know, it's balance in any of these games. Class balance itself is tough, but balancing the server pops for an MMO is a total pain in the ass. And frankly, nobody's done it perfectly yet. Believe me, if they did, we'd be happy to do what they did. For us, it's always going to be how many different things do we need to do to try to incentivize people to play on a server or in a realm on a server where the balance isn't optimal. And I think you can do that. It's not perfect, it's not easy, but you can do it, especially if you start addressing it well prior to launch. That time for us will be once we get through Beta 1.
It looks like Krenin is looking for a follow-up. So we will be able to add the Lifetime Sub Edition to the second account that comes with the Forever Hero tier.
Yes. Oh, God, yeah. Is that what you were asking? I thought you were asking about when you would see that extra, the
First
Lifetime.
question was when.
Okay,
second
good.
was just to confirm. I
Great.
think.
Yeah, good. Because that's what I thought. I'm going, okay. Now I'm confused. Of course, you'll be able to add that. We have said that obviously the Forever tiers are going to go away at some point after we announce beta. Obviously, we're not ready to stream, so we haven't reached that point yet. But it will be available. You'll have plenty of time, whether you're a builder, or a founder, to purchase those tiers or some other tiers. Just as we are going to change the refund policy, we'll give you guys and gals plenty of warning, because that's the only way to do things, or at least to do things the right way.
Kaladex asks, will there be mana in this game, or will mages and other classes simply use blood?
Right now it's blood. If blood doesn't work, we can certainly go back and use one of the more tropish systems out there, but for now, blood is the way to go.
Brand asks, are the surplus of damage types open to all classes, or are some damage types restricted to some classes?
That's a really good question for Ben. I can ask him. I know what my opinion is, that you need some specialization, but in terms of just how many of the different types he's thinking might be reserved for some of the classes, that's a good one for him.
Odilvik asks, will we have a world map overview that shows the current location and position of islands, or will that information be dependent on scout updates?
So a little bit of both. I mean, certainly during beta, we want to give you guys that kind of information. Once the game launches, you'll need to do some scouting, but you'll also have, you won't have to have the scouts doing that right before you look at the map, or even the same day. We're going to use the kind of, hey, the map has been filled in and this is where it's at. And then when it changes, if people have scouted it, changes will be reflected back to the world map. So it isn't something that you guys are going to always have to send out scouts for, just to scout the big islands. Because that would get annoying as hell, fairly quickly.
Zihu asks, what is your favorite realm and why isn't it Vikings?
Oh, I'll never answer that question. I actually love all three realms. Being in the position I am, I should be diplomatic, but the truth actually is I really do like all three realms. I think the classes that we have so far, I think, will combine very nicely to really fill out each realm in a unique and interesting way. So I don't really have a favorite. I think there are aspects of all of the three realms that attract me. Certainly some of the aggressiveness of the Vikings and the classes there. I love the difference, the kind of weirdness and also brutality you see in some of the TDD. And frankly, how can you not, at some level, be a fan of Arthur or the notion of Arthur and of Camelot? So I really do, like each, realm or love each realm. I don't know if I love them equally yet, but I certainly do love each one of the realms.
Hodelvik asks, what should I do when I run out of questions?
Back a different game, and so you can start with a whole new set of questions for whoever's running the game. No, I mean, honestly, I can't imagine anyone would run out of questions with all the stuff that we haven't, quite frankly, talked about yet, or things we've talked about but not gone into great details. So I expect to be doing this for, quite a while.
Kaladex asks, the keybinds show that there are 30 abilities. Once the ability builder goes back in, will we be allowed to make use of all 30 abilities and maintain that number of abilities all through beta?
I would assume so. Honestly, 30 isn't, as far as I know, that's not a cap. I've said before, I expect you folks to create lots and lots of abilities, and certainly 30 is more than 6, but it's not what I see as, hey, that's the hard, limit. So that may be just what's in there for now.
Krenin22 on the YouTube chat asks, have y'all thought more about rezzing and/or an alternate method of handling death?
We've talked about it, on and off, but nothing that is being codified yet.
Zoo asks, how far down the road will we get to test Veil/stealth mechanics?
Well, certainly the Veil, I'd like to see make an appearance at the end of Beta 1, not all Beta, but we'll see. Stealth is a whole different story.
Mumblefish asks, can we have bird people as a race for some realm, please? Dark Crystal style.
No, probably not. Certainly not Dark Crystal style. Could birds or other, non-humans make it into the game? Absolutely. I keep saying I look forward to, getting to do some more stories and work on races. I just haven't had the time in the last few weeks. But it is something that is absolutely on my to-do list. Once we wrap up some of the other stuff I'm working on, I do expect to go back to that. And I do have some ideas for things that, I haven't yet worked out a good becoming story for. So once I have that, we'll see what else makes its appearance.
Brando2 asks, is armor and weapon swapping during combat going to be allowed or restricted?
Oh, it's absolutely allowed. You just have to spend the time doing it. We've said this, but frankly, right from the beginning, that, if you want to take off your armor in combat, you should be able to. Now, you can get hit, you can get pounded, you can have a rock fall on your head while you're, sitting there taking off your armor, but that should be up to you. This is a choice that a player, has to make. So we don't want to say there's going to be a hard, and fast rule of saying, hey, we have you flagged as being in combat, therefore you can't do this. No, I'm all for that, but I'm also for taking the amount of time that it takes to put on your armor. And we might do, to keep it, a little more easier for players, is that if you're in combat, the amount of time it takes to do certain things takes longer. So we could still preserve the, hey, I'm out of combat, and I just want to swap stuff out to see how it looks, versus, I'm in combat, and you can't do anything. So I think a good compromise is, out of combat, hey, yeah, you can play dress up all you want, and change your, outfits. And then when you're in combat, adding the timer, a time delay to it, so that it doesn't affect combat in any way, in a negative way, other than, of course, you can get hit while you're doing it, which kind of makes sense.
Tavadi on the YouTube chat asks, 5-minute warning, folks. 5-minute warning. Tavadi asks, will there be as many balance changes as in MOBAs, maybe even to that extent that balance patches become content?
Well, you can certainly look at the history of MMOs, including, Dark Age and Warhammer, to see how I feel about that. Certainly, you could see also the difference, for example, between our willingness to, as much as I hate this word, nerf during Dark Age, where during Warhammer, when I was there, certainly less willing to be negative or to negatively affect a class rather than, simply raise up stats or raise up abilities of other classes to try to keep things in sync. So, we'll see what works best.
Sacrix asks, in terms of Cube, when do you plan to tackle problem areas like restrictions or people exploiting the system by bugging or stacking on players through walls?
Dude, welcome back, and boy, your timing couldn't have been better. We were actually discussing that in the last 24 hours. So that is near and dear to our heart. It is, again, something that has been involved in my discussions with Andrew, briefly with Tim, and some other people as well. So, yeah, it's something that is on the list, not only to, get done over the next few months, but to see what else we can, or how we can accelerate it, potentially through hiring. We need more engineers.
I'm looking for a nice question to end with here, folks. This one's just interesting because I don't think anyone's ever asked this before.
Oh, yay.
I don't know if it's going to be a good ending question, though, but it is Protest the Bread asks, what question would you like chat to ask?
That's a good one. I don't
recall it ever being asked.
No. What would I like the chat to ask? Sort of feels like cheating. What would I like chat to ask? It's almost Halloween, so we're a month into fall. What would I like chat to ask? Okay. Let's do one that is a really good question, fair question, but not one that seems like I threw myself a softball, because that would be cheating. Hi, Mark. It's, the end of October, and we're about halfway, through the beginning of fall. Well, sorry, a little more than halfway through, a little less than halfway through fall. How do you feel about the schedule and the things you said we're going to get done by now? Hey, that's a great question. Thanks, Mark. Sorry. It's Friday. I'm feeling a little daffy. Overall, I am happy with the progress on Coherent, the progress we're making on the 64-bit. It's been complicated. It's been, as one can imagine, frustrating, but the progress on it has been quite good. The guys who've been working on it, as I called it, Coherent Hell, or Ceph Hell, and it's not because either of those things are bad. Coherent's great, but when you have something like Ceph that is very integrated into your game, an important part of the game, and people have been programming to it, for it, around it, it's never easy to change something up. So I'm pleased with that. I'm very pleased with the work and progress we've made overall, this weekend aside, on stability. Certainly the 750 plus people and bots battles have worked very nicely. Building destruction, Andrew will be the first to admit that's taken him a little longer. It is a complicated issue. Plus, I've been so taking up some of his time, on hiring and the team as well with code reviews because of the things that we are working on, and you kind of want, Andrew's eyes over them. Art, I've been extremely pleased with overall. No, nothing bad at all there. Design, Ben has been Ben, and that's a very good thing. He's done a great job. What else? On hiring, we're doing quite nicely. Like I said, we are spending a fair amount of time in interviews, which is great. What else? Things that haven't gone quite as well. Certainly, I did wish and hoped we would have a couple additional programmers above what we have and have added, and we'll talk about them more at some point. I kind of wish we had landed a couple people that I was hoping we'd land. What else? What am I missing? Sieges. I do wish we had sieges in already in terms of with the new siege engines, but that we're waiting on getting some other tech done. What else? What else? I think that's it. I think I've pretty much covered, all the stuff. Yeah, it's been overall quite good. Again, the stability of the game overall is ridiculous. Even when we have issues in the scope of what we're trying to do. And Cube. Cube is another thing I do wish. But part of the problem was we had a person that I thought we were going to bring in. Thought we had that nailed. That was going to be put in charge of really taking what we were already doing on Cube and moving that forward from a more feature standpoint as opposed to the tech side. But that fell through. Truly at the 11th hour, which was a shame. But yeah, again, I do wish we had sieges already working, but we kind of need destructibility to have that and the siege engines. So hopefully this week, once Rubble goes up on Hatchery, you guys and gals can actually see, this stuff happening real time. And, it's hard enough to do when you're doing it in single player mode, but certainly to have a game that could network it across all the connections we can is a bit more challenging. So hopefully that will be working well. And then that will get us ever closer, to having sieges, or real sieges with, buildings that fall apart. But that's it. Overall, again, very pleased with where we're at. So yeah, I think that ended up to be a good question.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, folks, hey, look, thanks as always for your patience, for your backing. I'll keep you posted via an email if we end up having a server open over the weekend. Again, we're not going to have a test, an official test. The servers are just, or the build is just not stable enough. It should be hopefully fixed by early next week. But we, did some things, that we needed to do, including working a new version of the patcher and some other things, and we're just not ready. But we've been having lots of tests, as you folks know, on the weekend and during the week, so it's not like, hey, we've gone all dark and silent, for weeks. Though we actually never go silent. But we certainly haven't even gone dark on testing. So, this is not a big deal. Yeah, that's it. And again, am I missing something?
Update email?
update email.
Are we doing a regular Friday update email today, or no?
Maybe. I have to check.
Okay.
Yeah, we have both producers out. Tyler had sinus surgery this week, and Ash has whatever's going around a bit in the Seattle office. So down two producers, as well as some other people. So it wasn't the healthiest or fullest of studio days today. But I'll see where we're at about that and whether I can get an email out. So again, thanks again. Thanks again for your, I don't know what it is today. Maybe I've been doing too much talking over the last few days. Shocking, including interviews. But thanks again for everything. Thanks for the support, patience, and have a good and safe weekend. If you are doing any pre-Halloween things, I hope you have better weather than we'll have here. And I'll see you all. Yes, I am here next week, so I will see you all next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Have a great weekend, and yes, Tyler and Ash are both fine.
Oh yeah, Tyler's fine. He just had he has a recovery. Apparently, you are laid up for a week, after the Roto-Rooter, and Ash just has stomach issues, and it wasn't anything that anyone cooked or sent, so that's a good thing. But yes, everyone will be should be back on Monday.
See you later.